During the time with Divine Mother in Hawaii, she made this statement, "You will go beyond me." And this was very perplexing, because here was a being who was considered to be enlightened, God-realized, liberated. How could she make this statement, "You will go beyond me"? Whilst we were away overseas, and after a storytelling session to a large group in Swaibenau, a rather bold statement was made. And that statement was, the force of love and light creates our realities and our experiences, but all the laws of life work for emptiness. This rather gobsmacked all of the light workers who were present, as one can imagine. But let's see what this story does to perhaps give us a gleaning of the meaning, not only of Divine Mother's statement, but of this statement relative to what is considered the force or the forces of life existence itself. Now it's known that King Solomon was said to know the language of the animals and the birds. It's also said that he had power over the elements of life. But there's a story about a time when his father was reigning, King David, who himself was considered to be the greatest servant of God, or enlightened, or God-realized. And during that time, there was an old woman who every day baked 3 loaves of bread, 2 of which she gave out as charity to those in need, and the 3rd she kept for her own sustenance. But one day there was a knock on her door, and when she answered the door, there was a bedraggled man standing there, and he said, "I've been robbed. I've been robbed by robbers. Everything has been taken from me, and for 3 days and 3 nights I've had nothing to eat." So the old woman gave him one of her loaves of bread and sent him on his way. Later in the day, another knock on the door brought an even more pitiful creature standing there, stating that he'd been at sea and his ship had foundered, he'd lost everything, and he had not eaten for 3 days and 3 nights. And so the old woman gave him a 2nd loaf of bread. Later in the day again, a knock on the door saw this being standing there with a tale of woe similar to the others, begging, "Won't you help me? I'm starving. I have not eaten for 3 days and 3 nights." So the old woman gave her final loaf of bread to this bedraggled creature. And then she made her way to the presence of King David, asking for another bag of flour with which she could bake bread that would provide sustenance for herself and continue to give largesse. So King David gave her this bag of flour, and she went on her way home. But on her way, a great wind came along and blew the bag of flour off her head, sending it flying off into the distance. So she went back to King David, saying, "How could this be? I am a poor woman, I have given everything. Why is it that this happens to me?" But King David, not giving her any answer, merely was about to give her another bag of flour when his son, the young son, Solomon, said to his father, "Father, why do you not call the winds to ask why this happened?" And King David said, "What do you mean? Do you think that I am God, that I can call the winds?" And his son Solomon said to him, "Father, loan me your crown and your scepter for a while." And so King David did. And when Solomon took the crown and the scepter, he called the winds to him. And the east wind said, after the demand had been made, "Who did this?" The east wind said, "Well, it was not me. I haven't left my domain at all." And the same with the south and the west winds. But then the north wind said, "It was I. I saw a ship with merchants and a great deal of merchandise foundering at sea because of a great hole in its hull. So I took the bag of flour to save this ship." Not long after, several merchants and their servants came bursting into the king's chamber, saying, "A miracle, a miracle! Take this gold and share it with the poor. A wonderful miracle has happened for us. We were foundering at sea, and all of a sudden our ship steadied and we were saved. Give this gold to the poor." And then Solomon said, "Come, let us observe this." So an entourage, King David and Solomon, the merchants and the old woman, went down to the seaside. And there they saw the ship with a great hole in its hull that had been filled by the bag of flour. Now, that gold was given to the old woman so that for the rest of her life she could bake her loaves of bread and give largesse to the poor. But King David looked at his son Solomon and knew that his son Solomon would surpass him in all that he did. And so it was. King Solomon, Sulaiman as he was known in the Islamic faith, known to have power over the elements, to be able to call the winds, ride the winds, know the language of the birds and the animals. What does this story mean for us when we look to understand a statement by a God-realized being? You will surpass me. What does it mean when the statement is made before those who are resting in their experience of the power of love and light, to be told that even though this force creates existence and realities, that the laws of life work for emptiness? What's your experience now, as more and more you live the awareness that your onion has been peeled, your karma's been burned, your conditioning stripped away, and your belief systems shredded, to leave a space? Maybe the whiff of the onion coming in from time to time, just the vestiges of a mind trying to find something on which to rest. What is the meaning of this, and how does this story give us a gleaning? What does it mean by the Taoists say that their immortals can ride the wind and have power over the elements? Why do the Zen speak of the power of Wu, the power of non-reaction? Many, many other indications are there for us. But what's our experience, our growing experience of our relationship with life, now that the onion has been peeled, leaving a space, a nothingness, a non-beingness, a non-reactionariness, an openness, a presence? How does this story give us a gleaning of where we are